Well, good evening and welcome to the Wednesday, March 17th edition of the Island Stat Sports Talk. I'm your host, Earl Baston, and joining me is co-host Juggling Jason Ford. I guess welcome to the iceberg in the middle of the Atlantic, brother.
Well, I was watching your camera shake just now. I said, well, is the camera cold? Are you cold?
The camera wants some cocoa.
Man, these storms are coming off the East Coast.
Oh my
goodness.
Well, I guess it's just like sports right now, frozen in time. We will be joined in a few minutes by Ben Smith, the national swimming coach, and the president of the Bermuda Rugby Football Union, and that's Mr. Sean Field. And we'll be discussing the issues that they're having in restarting their sports under these new guidelines or return to play guidelines for their sports, which they both will have challenges due to the sheer numbers of people being allowed to, what they say, congregate.
So you said new. I mean, how new are we talking? Because
obviously,
it's something that we didn't know about the last 3 weeks or the last 4 weeks.
Well, see, when I say new, I'm talking about for them, because obviously, remember, we were dealing with football. They had a standard document, but obviously each sport was able to make changes within that document to try and figure out how they could return to sport. Now, I don't know if they added or took away stuff or how but we'll find out. We'll find out. What challenges they're facing to return to sport. We all know that Monday night, the Bermuda Football Association affiliates voted to end their 2020-2021 season for many reasons. But last night, Jason, yesterday morning, I had the opportunity of interviewing the president of the Bermuda Football Association and the first vice president, who is also the chairman of leagues and competitions, Mr. Shannon Burgess, and they gave us some insight as to what actually took place, why how they came to that. Although disappointed, the affiliates make the decision, sort of thing. And then last evening, during the COVID press conference, the premier talked about the fact that football was given the approval to return. But what was very interesting was he was in a strong tone. He did mention that football was given permission. However, in speaking with Mr. Wade earlier in the day, but you know what? Let's hear both of them's explanation, and then we can discuss it for a minute.
Could a storm be brewing? During the government's COVID-19 press conference last evening, Premier David Ferd said this about football.
The permission to resume football has been given by the government. And if there is an opportunity for the clubs to reconsider, then I hope they will do so that our young people can return to what they love, competitive sport. Some have questioned why football will not return, but international events are moving ahead. I want to be clear on this and reiterate again. The government did give permission for football to restart and agreed with the BFA a strategy for how they could do so safely.
President of the Bermuda Football Association, Mark Wade, did confirm that they got a response from government, but listened to when they received that response.
Getting final approval. To be honest, we received that at 5:30, just before the meeting. With the sort of the written details, we had some discussions, and they were very helpful to help shape what the conditions would look like.
There you go. They didn't deny that they didn't get permission, but a half hour before the meeting was to commence, after waiting how long? You don't want to make a comment. You don't want to make a comment.
sometimes, I mean, if you look at, so if you want to look at it half full,
Mm-hmm.
well, let's look at it half empty first. If you want to look at half empty, you will question transparency of the communication,
Mm-hmm.
because you will wonder about, obviously being half empty, you would think about the timing of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, benefit of the doubt was in new data was the meetings concluded with that conclusion from the health department and all the stakeholders involved, and they came to it at that particular time, and then that's the time they delivered. Some may question it. Some may question it.
Well, it's funny because it all depends on which side of the fence you sit on. If you're a supporter of the government, you're gonna support that.
Like
If
I
you're a
said,
supporter of football, you're gonna support the other side. But
to be honest, Earl, we were looking, even if football was going to resume. And first thing first, because I've watched online and I've seen some comments of people blaming the BFA, which that is definitely not the case in this particular instance, because number one, they take their lead from their affiliates, which are the clubs.
right.
Clubs are run by the presidents, their committees, and up. They had to rely on the government, the health department, and national security to give them. They have to supply them with the new guidelines or new proposed guidelines they have for the games, and it had to be agreed upon. And I think that's what they got back, what was agreed upon. Now, we don't know all the details, or if even with these new protocols or the guidelines that they agreed on would have been viable to continue the season. And I think at this date that we're at, we were number one. We probably want to finish the league, or it would have been very difficult to finish the league. In saying that, we will be able to probably do the FA Cup. But once again, to what extent? There was advised for about, not even advised. We need all the players to be tested. Do you know there is some hesitancy when it comes to testing and also the vaccine? So what players, what clubs would have been at a disadvantage? What security workers? Because we just think that the game is just about the players, but we also need security. We also need referees. And that is something that, I don't think everybody's even talked about. Would have been, what was the referees' issues? Did they have any issues regarding COVID or being in these conditions? What was their guidelines when it came to this? So these are some of the questions that we don't know. We didn't get from the press conference, obviously, and we didn't get. Obviously, they probably wouldn't have got all the information at that special meeting from the BFA. So interesting enough, I just feel for the players. I feel for the players because
it's hard. I mean, our season didn't end last season, and now or was cut short, and now here you get into 10 games into the season or 9 games into the season, and that's it. Season null and void, with the exception of the 2 cup games that were finished, cup tournaments that were finished in the charity, which Southampton Rangers won, and the Dudley, which Devonshire Cougars won. That was agreed upon by the affiliates as well. But you're right. When people like to point the finger at the people elected to do the management of the game, but not realizing that it's actually the affiliates who actually make the decisions about the games. And the unfortunate part is there's always going to be that conflict because, again, look at the vote.
No, I mentioned it. 11 to 10. So
11 to 10. So 10 clubs are not happy.
Yeah.
10 clubs are not happy for many reasons. 11 clubs, some of them probably aren't happy, but just decided, you know what, this is going to be too much for us. And we have to also add in the field operators that will be focusing in on the next sport that's coming up, and which is cricket. You know, how does that affect them going into another sport? Pitchers being ready, you know, all that type of stuff that we're not privy to, because remember, each club has to decide amongst their committee how they're going to vote, when they're going to vote, which way they're going to vote, and why. And then it's up to them to inform their members of why they voted, if they want to why they voted the way they did. You know what I mean? So those are the type of things that we have to be very cautious on when we speak out publicly, because I don't personally like somebody, you know, or I don't like their club. So I think their club, because they're on the executive of the association, their club gets this, and their club, and we've seen it throughout. No matter who's in charge, it's always been like that, and it's time, you know. Let's all take a step back and realize that it's actually the affiliates who make most of the decisions on which direction they want football to go in. Because remember, they elect the executive, and the executive come up with a mandate. The clubs vote on it, and then you move forward.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. What do you think? I mean, I have ideas. What do you think these players could do between now and September?
Well, the hardest thing right now, Jay, is getting, because okay, when we grew up, we used to have about 50 guys having a kick
every day.
Well, right now only 25. But I think that getting back to that neighborhood kicks will probably be the best thing for guys to get that running in, to get that you know, just to get something going. It's going to be very difficult to organize. Well, the association, I don't know if they could organize anything, but maybe a club, 2 clubs can get together, organize something, you know. But then you have to go through all the protocols. You have to go through all that type of stuff. You have to get in touch with the government, the health department, and all those things that are required to have something over the number 25. You have to have permission, and you know, you don't want to run the risk of having to appear in court because you're having a kick and 40 guys show up.
And something like that. I mean, so I'm still baffled. I'm trying to get the information. I'm going on websites. The significance of 25 compared to 35.
You can bang your head up against your wall.
You're
not going to get the answer you're looking for, because no one will give you the answer.
Why is actually 25? Why is 25 across the board for all venues, whether it's indoor or outdoor? I mean, even for outdoor. I mean, and all fields. All our fields are different. We've seen different numbers being allowed for cricket during the cricket season. Initially, it was a set number.
Yes.
And then they changed it based on the field size and obviously not just the field of play, but also around the field of play, whether it's bathrooms. So
same fields, but different rules. Same fields.
This is what I'm saying. And cricket is how many players on the field?
11 aside. So you have, at any given time, you have the 11 team fielding, 2 batsmen, 2 umpires. Was that 15 people on the field at one time?
It's a non-contact, contact. But 25, 35, is there any data to say that one's more safer than the other? I mean, that's the, I don't know. I say that because, Earl, I'm tuning in and watching sports around the world. You know, I'm watching sports. I'm watching
with fans and without fans.
Yes, with and without, right? But even if you're looking at the basket, I mean, whatever sport you're looking at. I mean, I watched the cricket legends. That was wide open. I believe that was in India. But it's gonna be interesting because me personally, just on the COVID case, the COVID situation itself, I'm just keeping my eye on Florida because last weekend was spring break.
Mm. Oh yeah, they
And
said the beaches.
as of the last couple of days, via CNN, I've been watching. They pull up the map of the cases. It's been on a 10 to 20% decline in cases.
Mm-hmm.
Florida and Texas, as we know, those two states are pretty much all wide open.
Right.
So I'm just trying to keep an eye on that to see if there's a breakout or uptick after, so it's basically 10 to 14 days. I'm waiting to see. Well, from information I've been told, 10 to 14 days that you should see something if something was going to come out of it. So,
Yeah.
but I'm not. Yeah.
Well, I saw a little clipping on BBC of the celebration of the America's Cup and the amount of people that were in New Zealand, no mask wearing, celebrating, partying. I'm saying okay, and they had a lockdown that broke out through a breakout at the America's Cup that stopped some racing.
Hold on. So that went on today, right?
Yeah, right. Today fast, yeah.
And some of those same sailors will be making their way to our beautiful Isles of Bermuda, right?
Sure. Yep.
Within the next 10 to 14 days, yes?
Probably sooner.
Ooh, my toes across, my arms across.
Listen, they'll be given permission to do whatever they want, when they want, and how they want.
Why?
Because we've been told. What have we been told? We need the business.
And the international events are still going on.
Yeah.
Well,
So everybody turn and face the wall while this takes place, and then you can all turn around and we can go on about.
People doesn't come into 35, 45.
Listen, just face the wall for this period, and realize that what being told.
It's so hard to be positive right now.
Well, trust me, it's not hard. It's frustrating. It is frustrating because even on Monday you see a release of tickets being sold for on the water and on land. It's been queried. It's been queried about just that, and it would appear they're going ahead with a village.
Well, what did concern me, prior press conferences regarding outbreaks, especially when it came to establishments and reasons why some establishments would be closed or were having this lockdown or curfew, was basically we heard the use of alcohol being involved and making a difference.
Yes.
In that way. But
that's the reason why we have a curfew.
But I'm seeing tickets being sold with, beverages and soft drinks. Now, when somebody does, if you go to the website, you see beverages and soft drinks. I think it's just water and soft drinks.
These soft drinks are the chaser.
I could be wrong, but I'm just reading what I read on the website.
Yes.
Yeah. On the Hamilton, the Hamilton Princess website, the SailGP. It's that's the frustrating part. That is the frustrating part, and I say that because if we know that some of our clubs, our local clubs, that is their main revenue, whether we like it or not, whether we support it or not. Right? That is their main revenue.
Yeah.
And many have been forced, 25 or less.
Yeah.
But have all these stipulations, extra staff, and the whole nine. So some haven't opened at all.
Right.
They also don't want to jeopardize their liquor license, which is,
Yeah.
So it's this is
gonna be interesting. It's gonna be interesting. Well, let's take our first commercial break, and when we come back, hopefully we're joined by Ben Smith and Sean Theo Lament. We'll be right back.
The everyday use of spices goes back well over 6,000 years, evidenced by archaeological finds in Europe, including remains of spiced food. Since 1976, the Frontier Natural Foods Co-op has been bringing a wide range of exciting flavors to the table. The results are good news for the environment and more robust, fragrant essential oils in these natural seasonings. We're featuring Frontier Natural Products, organic ground cloves, rub sage leaf, and poultry seasoning. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Hi, I'm Barry Wilkinson, and I'm excited about our new season of Line and Length in association with Massey United Insurance. This season, we are happy through our sponsors to assist junior athletes and sports persons on a monthly basis to be the beneficiary of a donation of sporting gear. Clubs, coaches, and sporting organizations can nominate persons to receive assistance. The donations will be given each month to assist with social improvements and a relief program aimed at exposing and promoting youth in sport throughout the Caribbean. How to reach us to submit your nomination? Send me an email to the address below, or send a note to our Facebook page or our IG page. Tell us about your athlete and why they should receive the support. Nominations for the month should be submitted no later than the 15th of every month. After a careful selection process, a donation will be made in a different island every month starting from March 2021. I'm so excited, and we must thank Massey United Insurance. So get writing and watching the new season of Line and Length.
And yes, Jason, Bermuda is eligible.
I was waiting on that.
Yes, Bermuda is eligible for that. That's one of the reasons why they have reached out and paid for an ad on our show to let everyone know that, yeah, you are eligible. You just follow the guidelines and away you go. So
I needed information again. I need to see it again quick.
It'll come again. It'll come again. It's in the next 3 shows.
Nice
for us. So people will get an opportunity to see it at least 3 times or 4 times each show. So we are just awaiting Ben Smith and Sean Theo Lament to talk their sport, which is swimming and rugby, to discuss the issues that they're having with the return to sport guidelines and what it means for their athletes. Because again, I mean, we look at football apart from the national level. There's been no activity for 4 months, for the average player, and the same thing's going to be said about swimming. The same thing's going to say rugby's even longer because rugby never got their season started locally, so they haven't played since the lockdown last March. So that's been a long time for them.
Also, I mean, go back to football a bit for a minute. Something we spoke about, spoke to each other off air. I aspired officials.
Yeah.
Young officials that have been in training to get on the FIFA list, to officiate overseas matches. I knew they had to get matches and stuff underneath their belts, which they will no longer be able to do here locally. Be interesting if they will be going away to another country to actually, get games in. I mean, it's. I mean, players who might have needed video and stuff for schooling.
School, yeah.
I mean, all these things take place. But Earl, we can't. We're no different from many other countries. Other countries are dealing with these same situations.
Yeah, definitely.
In the lower divisions in England, remember they got that was it for them also. So they're professionals. So sometimes might have needed that money.
Yep. Well, we are joined by Ben Smith. Good evening, Ben. How are you?
I'm good. How are you tonight?
Not bad at all. Obviously, with the state that we're in, 25 persons at an event, swimming is still going to be one of those events very difficult to actually put on due to the amount of people you need just to be officials, let alone the swimmers. How does this stage actually affect how you guys how it affects you in getting your sport back up and running?
Well, at the moment, we can't have a regular meet. So what we've done is clubs have been putting on time trial meets because they can do it with less officials, but the times don't count. It's really just an opportunity to get the swimmers the ability to race. I put in an application for an exemption, but really until we move off the 25 gathering, those exemptions aren't going to happen. It takes 20-something officials to run a proper official competition where the times are going to count, which means that I don't have any room to put in athletes, coaches, anyone else. So, the last real meet that we had was at the end of November, beginning of December. And since then, it's just been trying to keep the athletes motivated for what might happen. So that's where we are.
We're also joined by the president of the Bermuda Rugby Football Union, Mr. Sean Field-Lement. Good evening, Sean. Your sport locally hasn't been active since March of last year. Is that correct?
Yeah, Earl, sorry for my tardiness. Work got in the way.
No problem.
Of my position. Yeah, it's been very, very challenging. I think we're all in the same boat. It's been extremely frustrating. We did a lot of work to prepare a sort of a COVID plan and a return to rugby. We bent over backwards to work with government and the Association of National Sports Governing Bodies, and the Ministry of Health, National Security, who've done a phenomenal job. By the way, I don't want to be said that we think they've done anything wrong. They haven't. But it's been very frustrating, and it's certainly been a test of our resilience. The sport was struggling for numbers. There's been a decline in adult participation. The youth participation was actually heading in the right direction, and we were really bullish. We were getting the fledgling women's rugby up and going. So there were certain aspects that were going well, and then there was concerns about the adults, and then this calamity came along, and it's we'll get through it, but it's just come at a really bad time. I'm concerned that we're going to have a sort of a COVID hangover for several years to come. And I think I speak on behalf of a lot of sports. I just think that when people get used to not doing something, it's extra hard to get them back participating. And, people will pick up different interests, video games instead of actually doing the real thing because they've been playing video sports, So, it's, I don't want to say woe was I. It's a test. And I think, what's the old expression? What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. Mm-hmm. So I feel pretty strong right now. So, yeah, it's frustrating. And, Ben and I work on the Association of National Sports Governing Body. It has come up a couple of times. We monitor what's going across the sporting community. It's nice that the Minister Peets, he's alive to the situation. I think, he's been very empathetic with where we all are. I can talk from rugby's point of view. We had a plan to start, and we were on the roadmap, and it was all based on where the community spread was. and literally 5-6 days before we said yes, we're going to go, there was an uptick. And in actual fact, one of the sporting clubs where we're going to play, they had a specific outbreak in that club, and so it was sort of prophetic that we didn't do it. Like, I said, no, we're gonna postpone it for another 2 weeks. 2 weeks became 6 weeks. 6 weeks became 2 months, and and then people are, and then I mean, it's a very difficult problem to solve from a government perspective in regards to sort of getting guidelines. And I would have liked a little bit more consultations with some of the sports governing bodies in regards to the requirements that they've put in place. The mandatory testing and all this sort of stuff, because there was a lot of dialogue around that, which Earl, I know you, Jason, have covered multiple times. And then we were ready to go again. We had, we said, all right, clubs, let's get together and go. We're going to work with the government guidelines, mandatory test and all that. And 2 of the clubs just said, we can't do it. Our members are not willing to take the chance. And so we sort of said, okay, we'll go with 2 clubs, and we sort of shuffled people over. Those 2 clubs, Mariners and Teachers, very strong executive leadership. Sports administrators, kudos to them. They sort of said, yeah, we're still going. And then, there were, this 25 people bubble that Ben talked about. Obviously, rugby is 15 aside, so that's 30 players. You have 3 referees and assistants, so that's 33 people before you even get into subs. Each team's allowed 6 subs, so you're up to 42, up to about 50 people. And then there's people like me and you, Earl, who will brave the wind and wet just to watch a mediocre game of rugby. So it's challenging. So yeah, the 15-a-side game is on hold. We're actually in the throes of just working with government. We're going to do an exhibition 10s game, I think, on Saturday. That hasn't been finalized, so Ben, don't think that I'm leaving you out of the loop, Earl. It's still being planned, but it's encouraging because there's a core group of very hardcore, dedicated athletes who want to do stuff, who want to play, and so we're going to try to sort of make opportunities for them, but we want to stay safe and we want to stay inside the guidelines. So yeah, there might be an exhibition 10s tournament. Certainly it won't be of the standard that we had in February. That was a treat. But yeah, so we're soldiering on through, and I got my fingers crossed. It's kind of interesting. Bermuda's looked upon in the Caribbean certainly as a safe place in regards to COVID, which is a nice sort of perception, I guess. But so we've been asked if we would host a rugby tournament with the Caribbean Championship with 2 teams coming up here. We said in principle, we're looking at June. We said in principle, yeah, if government gives us the green light and we're all ready to go, it'd be wonderful. And I know that would be wonderful for our beleaguered tourist industry, because let's be clear that sports does help the tourist program. But I don't know. We'll have to, we'll see how that goes. I'm trying to be very pragmatic. I'm trying to be positive, but it's a test. It's a test, and we'll get through this. I mean, this too shall pass, I think is something that we all have to believe in. But it's the hangover that I think we're all going to have. And I know rugby struggles are not unique. I'm very good friends with David Sabir, and seeing what's happening over with the BFA, it's heartbreaking. But I understand, what's going on there as well.
Well, let me ask you real quick. So you usually have a 15 season and you've added in a 10s, you have a 7s as well. So would it be safe to say that the 15 season has been canceled for rugby for the 2020-2021 year season?
No, I'm not in that space yet, Earl. Thanks for trying to push me over the cliff, but no, I'm not in that space. I'm still optimistic that we can have, whether it's a season, maybe not, but we may be able to have a knockout tournament.
Okay.
And that would probably be really what it would be dependent upon is that I need 4 weeks of sort of people being able to train, because as much as I used to do it when I was a youth, you need to train to play rugby. It's not something you can just leave the bar stool for and go and take it up. You're going to end up hurting yourself. So you have to do some basal fitness and sort of techniques and get the rust off. So I need a 4-week window where we can do some active training. And then, obviously, so, I mean, I still hold out. The plan is to see if we can do the exhibition 10 games and have people do it. It's sort of like, it was funny. I was going by the BFA field, and it's nice to see some kids down there having a pickup game of football, and there was like, I think, 5 aside, and they were having a knockabout. And it wasn't organized by anyone. So there's still a desire to do sports. And if there's still a desire for people to play rugby, then I will do my best. My executive will do the best to see what we can do for them. And I would encourage other sports governing bodies on the island to try to have that mindset, because it's extremely easy to just say enough, no mas, as boxers once said, right? But I think that the sort of the Rubicon moment will be probably at the end of April. If we're not, if we just can't do it, then, but that will have a knock-on effect in regards to, I'm going to have to tell World Rugby and RAN, Rugby American North, that Bermuda's not in a position to hold a tournament. I mean, RAN are still looking to hold the 7s tournament. They're still wanting to have these 2 knockout games. Sorry, my lighting just went. There we go. So yeah, we're we'll see how it goes. It's certainly not going to be 4 rounds of rugby that I used to have to beg and control you to come down there, Earl, and take some pretty second-rate video of, but made our rugby look good. Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm pretty sure, Ben, you're in the same position. I mean, it's soul destroying to see what's happened, but the thing about it is you have to look for silver linings, and certainly everyone's healthy. That we haven't, it could be a lot worse. So yeah, and then I think really it's going to. It's funny. I was approached by a big sponsor, sort of doing a survey about what needs to be done and how corporate sponsors can help. And I think what it is they may have to look at instead of sort of getting the brand out there and on TV or seeing or things like that, it's more about trying to reinvigorate a sporting ethos in Bermuda. Get people back to sports, and that's going to require some investment. That's going to require some extreme volunteerism, and and sort of people will need a electric shock to the system to sort of return to what was the pattern of behavior. You train Tuesday, Thursdays, play Saturday. Right nowadays, I think we're all in this sort of treadmill of sitting on the couch watching Netflix. I don't know. Some of us have other options. Mine is pretty limited.
Right. Well, we're going to take another commercial break, and when we come back, Jason, you're up to ask your question. We'll be right back.
Amy's Kitchen is an independent organic food producer, a family business who've been focusing on wholesome and flavorful foods for over 30 years. From their first pot pie right up to 1 million meals a day, and firmly believe in the importance of TLC throughout the entire journey to the final outcome. This month we're featuring Amy's Organic Soups, black bean, vegetable, minestrone, quinoa, kale, red lentil, low-fat split pea, and vegetable barley and more. All of them dairy, gluten, and lactose-free. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Hi, I'm Barry Wilkinson, and I'm excited about our new season of Line and Length in association with Massey United Insurance. This season, we are happy through our sponsors to assist junior athletes and sports persons on a monthly basis to be the beneficiary of a donation of sporting gear. Clubs, coaches, and sporting organizations can nominate persons to receive assistance. The donations will be given each month to assist with social improvements and a relief program aimed at exposing and promoting youth in sport throughout the Caribbean. How to reach us to submit your nomination? Send me an email to the address below, or send a note to our Facebook page or our IG page. Tell us about your athlete and why they should receive the support. Nominations for the month should be submitted no later than the 15th of every month. After a careful selection process, a donation will be made in a different island every month starting from March 2021. I'm so excited, and we must thank Massey United Insurance. So get writing and watching the new season of Line and Length.
And welcome back, Jason.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. Well, guys, Sean's disappearing.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
I need the man of quotes here. So my theme tonight has been basically the numbers. The number 25 is really just, let's get it to me. So I'm going to ask you guys a question each regarding numbers. So Sean, I'm going to start with you first. 25. Now, you stated that you need at least 50 or just to have players and officials. Well, we had an international tournament here latter part of last year that I'm pretty sure had way more than 25. Was there any explanation why it's just 25? That's your question. And for Ben Smith, obviously, I know that you guys have I've seen in cricket last year, there was a set number across when it first opened up for cricket regarding venues. But eventually they end up adjusting, obviously having some consultation with the field operators and the league, that some fields will allow more people than others. I know you guys have, at least 3 pools? Wow. Soltis, Work Academy, and the National Sports Center. Is it 25 people for all 3 venues? That's your question, and that's Sean's question. Either guys can do it anytime you want.
I've done a lot of talking, so let my brother Ben go.
Yeah, so it's 25 for each of those facilities, which is the part that's extra frustrating. The facility, just the National Sports Center facility, the aquatic center it's a huge facility. And really, we're looking for a competition at that facility with 25 people at, you can spread people out 100 feet apart, and it doesn't make sense, right? So for us, the lane width means that you're separate from the other person. You're not actually going to be near your competitors at any point. But with the number 25, we can't have a competition. It's not possible for us. So 50 would allow us to have a competition. We'd have to have lots and lots of competitions in the same day to separate different age groups so that we can get everybody an opportunity. But 25 just makes it impossible.
Was there any consultation with the health ministry to actually come to the venue and collaborate or just consult, what's possible? Obviously, I know you guys had to put a proposal in, but did somebody actually come to the venue and take a look?
Yeah, so it's interesting because prior to this latest kind of shutdown in numbers, we went through all of that process. So they were able to see the difference from one facility to the other. We held a competition, and they approved all of those different steps. So now when you look at where we are this second time around, it's not really necessary to go back and do all of those things again. It's just simply that 25 has become the number for the island. So until that number moves, sports, right? Sports are impacted because the number 25 gathering is the island number.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But we're committed to our sport, the international event coming up in the next month. That I guess all these 25s are going to go out the window, because if we're inviting all these people into the island.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people are frustrated from a sports perspective, because sport has been kind of left on the back burner on this, and it is such an important part of our country, and really what it can do for our youth. Right now, having them not be able to participate, not be able to put in the work to set goals, challenge themselves, every week we go by kind of curtailing their involvement, we are giving them not just that opportunity to play the video games like Sean was talking about, but it's the other issues that we don't want them to have that opportunity to get involved in. And I think that we're going to have to figure out a way to allow sports to get back. If you can go into a restaurant with, multiple tables of 10, and that's indoor, everybody's breathing the same air, open air, allowing people to be healthy and exercise, seems like we need to figure out a way to make that happen.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be interesting to understand where the number 25 came from. I mean, I don't know. So it'd be nice to sort of someone to sort of just explain how they sort of pick the number. And I think when people know the why, then it makes it a lot easier to digest. So I mean, that's no criticism. It's just some constructive feedback. We're not, Bermuda is not unique, and in other countries they've taken a zero tolerance approach to sports and just said forget it. So I mean, I think our government is found an acceptable balance. I think what it is no one, we all thought that this is sort of a middle distance run, maybe a half marathon. It was a cup match on a really hot day. Well, now we're finding out that it's a cup match times 4 on a really, really hot day. You know what I mean? This is it's sort of like an Ironman marathon than a sort of marathon or a half marathon. I mean, we're all going, when's the end in sight? And it's sort of like they keep moving the goalposts, to use a sporting analogy. So yeah, we have options in rugby. We could play sevens, and we could do that. We could probably have 3 teams play sevens and get away with it. I mean, I know that there was a bit of confusion in regards to the World 10 series that was here. That was, I think the island was in a different place. I mean, if you cast your mind back that far, we were actually, I think, like 1 or 2 people had it, and there was 0 community transmissions, and it was, this is when we were all ready to go, okay, well, this isn't too bad, and government said, okay, we'll open the borders up and we'll let people back in, and all of a sudden with that, we had the numbers go up. So the 10 series was able to operate in a semi-bubble. The PGA operated in a semi-bubble. You'll note that I use the word semi because, if you look at the stringent measures that were in place for basketball or ice hockey, I don't think what we had would sort of qualify as a bubble. But it was sort of like, the best of all choices. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. What was an expression that was said today? If you try to design a horse bike committee, you end up with a camel. So I get that. You would like more consultation, but at the end of the day, people have to make decisions, and they have to do what they think is right. And I just think that in hindsight is always 20/20. And I think I'm pretty sure if you ask some powers to be, if there was to be sort of a redo button, they may have just said, well, we could have had a Zoom conference with several of the presidents just to canvass their thoughts and then explain the why of our approach. But it is what it is, and I don't want to really spend too much time on spilt milk. It's done. I just think hopefully moving forward they'll consult and recognize the need. And I hopefully there will be a real concerted effort from government to, when we are back to getting back to normalcy and getting back to the sports across the board, like not just the big 4 or 5 sports, but across it, that there's a real Bermuda effort to rebuild our once proud sporting ethos. And that's what's really required.
Yeah, I know we all talk about sports and we talk about the physicality of it, but we're going to have some emotional issues down the line with sports because people use it to get out frustration, to get out anxiety, to get out that's where they kind of shine. And one of the fears for you guys is that your athletes have found another way to express themselves in those regards. Have you had any talks with your athletes to see emotionally? I know, Ben, you talk to a lot of the athletes, but how do you think they are emotionally? I know you're not a doctor in that regard, but a lot of these kids look up to you, and I know you can tell when they're on, when they're off emotionally, socially, and all that. But where do you think they're at right now?
I'm going to say, from the swimming perspective, this second kind of shutdown that we've been through has been much tougher than the first one. The first time, everybody, like Sean said, it was like, okay, it's a pause. We know that we have to do these things for our health, and it was, I believe everybody had kind of come up with their way of coping.
Mm-hmm.
This second time, I'm not sure any of us have an idea of how to cope. And what's happened is the goals that you normally would put out in front of you have all disappeared, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you at the highest level, we're seeing professional sports, but only at the very highest level.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere else is in this no man's land, and the athletes are on a treadmill, right? Like they're just kind of doing the same thing over and over, hoping that at some point something's going to happen. And that is never going to be healthy emotionally, right? Like up here, it is playing with their mind. And what you see, I know I can say this, sometimes you get to practice and I can just tell there's nothing left, right? Like I can't push them, because pushing them is going to mean they might not come to practice tomorrow. Like hard work. Listen, the weather's been cold and it's miserable. Well, normally when the weather's cold and miserable, I can get them to get in the pool because I'm going, okay, there's somebody in Trinidad that's trying to beat you. Right now, that person in Trinidad's probably not training. Like, that's the reality of it. Mm-hmm. So those buttons, you can't press them because they're not feeling it the same way. I can't give them that carrot because the carrot doesn't exist. And I think a lot of times the adults need to realize that our young people are suffering in a different way than we realize. There's going to have to be a lot of healing that goes on to kind of embrace and re-nurture how we deal with sports and how we deal with our young people, because the impact is going to be big. And I'm not sure that everyone really realizes what's about to happen. Our young people are suffering, but it's kind of quiet at the moment.
Definitely. And Sean, what is some of the talk around, especially the younger athletes? Like you said, you had a thriving youth program. What are some of the challenges coming out of that?
Well, one is that we had a really promising under 19 team and under 21 team, some phenomenal athletes, some really great young men who had worked together over a period of 4 years and were growing and getting better, and the performances were getting better. I mean, they got into the semi-final of the under-19s. I think they lost to Trinidad in a nail biter, and then you could hear them saying, "Next year we'll have you," and all this sort of stuff. I mean, there was like this real sort of desire, this hunger, and it was for an old sort of Caribbean championship warrior like myself. It was really nice to see that mentality and that ethos and that spirit of Bermuda rugby wanting to take on the Caribbean, and then all of a sudden it's just petered out. There's canceled, and then I made a passionate plea to Rand to say, give these kids another year. So we said, okay, we'll make it an under-20 tournament, which was an easy one because an international rugby is under-20 championship, whereas Caribbean was under-19. And so they said, yeah, we're going to do it. So we're getting hyped. And Coach Dan Roberts was like, okay, I got the kids, and there's assistant coaches are all ready and they're hyped. And then, it gets canceled again. So I then go back to the drawing board and say, okay, can we make it an under-21? Because you want
move the goalposts.
Yeah, well, no, but the thing about it is, it's the missed opportunities that in years to come, we can sit around and we can talk about how great we were and the things we did, but at least we had the opportunity to do it, right? You're going to have I don't want to say generation, but there's going to be a gap, where people are going to go, yeah, I didn't get to do that, right? And I also, rugby is a sport that continuously develops. Ben, swimming is the same way, and you get them young and you try to teach them the basics, and they get stronger and fitter, and they get more mentally switched on to it, and then there's this period where really the development and coaching is absolutely critical. And it, unfortunately, is usually from around 18 to 22 in regards to that's when you're going to see your athletes mature into, their blossom. And some of these kids are missing that opportunity to blossom. So I think it's the frustration and missed opportunity that we're going to have to deal with.
Well, let's take another commercial break, and when we come back, Jason, you're up again.
This month, we're featuring a range of infant and baby care products from Hello Bello, a company started up by a husband and wife team who were inspired to meet the challenges arising from the often surprising, not to mention messy experiences that came with the territory known as parenting. The couple behind Hello Bello know that being a parent is uniquely demanding, and their mission is to bring you premium products at gentle prices. Try Hello Bello Alpha diapers in a range of sizes, Alpha Blossom baby lotion, baby powder, and much more. Lindo's, why go anyplace else?
Hi, I'm Barry Wilkinson, and I'm excited about our new season of Line and Length in association with Massey United Insurance. This season, we are happy through our sponsors to assist junior athletes and sports persons on a monthly basis to be the beneficiary of a donation of sporting gear. Clubs, coaches, and sporting organizations can nominate persons to receive assistance. The donations will be given each month to assist with social improvements and a relief program aimed at exposing and promoting youth in sport throughout the Caribbean. How to reach us to submit your nomination? Send me an email to the address below, or send a note to our Facebook page or our IG page. Tell us about your athlete and why they should receive the support. Nominations for the month should be submitted no later than the 15th of every month. After a careful selection process, a donation will be made in a different island every month starting from March 2021. I'm so excited, and we must thank Massey United Insurance. So get writing and watching the new season of Line and Length.
And welcome back. Juggler?
Yeah, Ben, I'm just thinking about you're just talking about the kids around that age of about 15 to 25 or so, where a lot of these kids age out in sports. Rather, you have these youth programs coming up from U8, U10, whatever, coming all the way through. But once you get around that 16, 17, 18, when they're on the verge of high school, going into college or whatever, a lot of kids stop doing the sport. And then some who do go away don't come back and return back to the sport. With this year or year and a half, that's will probably be kids missing from sports. Are we looking at other ways to keep them motivated, maybe coaching courses or tutoring or something of that nature, because to try to keep them around interested, even though they might, just like yourself, even though you might not be doing laps, on a daily basis, but you're still hanging around, because all the sports, as we know, whether it's rugby, whether it's soccer, whether it's cricket, we still need people involved behind the scenes, off the field, to take it to the next level.
Yeah, it's interesting you saying that, because one of the things that I've been thinking about is across all sports, one of the things that we're going to lose is our officials, right? Because the same way that you have, our young people that are finding other things to do, the people that were giving up their time, they're going to find something else to do. And when you go back and need that person you were relying on, and they're going, well, I filled that time doing something else. I think that all of us are going to have to come up with new concepts to get people back into the programs, get our young people to stay engaged. I know for me, there's this window where you get an athlete to be hooked on the sport. And what happens is you train, you have that opportunity to go to a competition, and they see what that level of competition is, and it's right there for them. So you might medal, you might not, you might get into a final, but that's that piece, that spark that makes them go, all right, I'm going to come back and I can train through the winter with all the bad weather and everything else. And that's the motivation. A year and a half, you've impacted your 11-year-old that was going to be 12, your 12-year-old that was switching to 13. And then what normally happens is if you can't catch them after that point, the 13, 14, 15-year-olds, that's where you're losing them to other things. Well, if you didn't catch them, which is where we are, right? That group that we've missed, they're gone. And I'm not sure that there's a way to keep that group, because the sport is what drives them. So you can try to, and that's what we did in the early stages, right? It's all written. We're going to give them videos to watch. We're going to give them, opportunities to kind of figure out the other side of the sport. Well, that only lasts for so long, right? You can do the theory of football for so long, but if I can't kick a ball, it's not quite the same. And that's really where we are right now. Hearing football, and I know that across the island, there's a lot of people that are really upset because football is really the sport in Bermuda. And to have that one disappear is a bit of a, you can tell that it's had an impact. People are starting to really pay attention of what this impact is on sports in Bermuda. I called Earl last week to find out what sports were happening last weekend. And there was only one real sport happening for the entire weekend. It was a cycle race on a Sunday morning. That's unusual. I mean, Earl's normally, one end of the island to the other all day long. He had a pretty easy weekend, but that's not good. That's not a good thing.
True. Definitely not.
Cycling is, a individual sport, I would say. It's you and the bike, and then you join other people on their bikes. So you can go out and do your thing. And so, or you can, if you're like Peter, you can sit in a dark room and pedal away on your bike. But yeah, I just, so it is the whole sporting ethos. It's really going to be, and I know I'm repeating myself, but I think there's got to be a very well thought out plan by the Ministry of Youth, Sports, and Recreation in regards to how are we going to reinvigorate people to take pride in sports, to take care of their physical well-being. Because the other thing is that if people aren't out there doing sports, they're not, getting fit. They're doing other antisocial things. There's going to be knock-on effects, whether it be long-term sort of health issues or chronic antisocial behavior. It'll be an interest. I'm pretty sure some very smart people in universities will be writing dissertations about the long-term effect of the COVID sort of quarantine 2 years, and they'll talk about how it impacted things.
There's an interesting. There's a part that is also missing right now is inter-school sports haven't happened, right? So for the whole year, that's missing, and a lot of people don't realize that sports sometimes they get the opportunity to attract athletes out of those programs, right, from inter-school sports. So that's another area that's completely missing for this year. So those are those athletes that might not be part of clubs, but they were still kind of being competitive. They get that opportunity to get those juices flowing. That's been gone. So it is going to be a complete restart once we have the ability to really do that safely.
And I was going to ask that about restarting, because you actually now have to start from zero. You almost have to go out and sell your sport, even to those that used to do the sport, because, like you said, they found other things to do. So, will it be through the national sport governing bodies group, kind of everybody collaborating to how they can help each other to sell their sport, because it's going to take a team effort. And whether or not the young person or the athlete comes back to your sport, what you want to see is that person engaged in a sport. So do you guys foresee anything like that, like a collaboration of sports is back on in Bermuda once we do get them all back on, and these are your options kind of thing?
I think the interesting thing that a lot of industries have done, COVID has opened up opportunities. So for all the negative stuff that we're talking about, there is an opportunity for us to grow in a different direction, right? Bermuda can reset how they do sport. So the collaboration part, I think, is important. There's cross training. There are athletes that sit on a bench in another sport that, if given the opportunity, could be a star in a different sport. Bermuda's small. We have to start to look at the talent that we have, and this is a perfect opportunity for us to put that framework in place so that we can do that. Who knows? We might thrive after this if we take this opportunity to make those adjustments.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think there's an opportunity to sort of underscore how important sports really are. So that, when, there's obviously sometimes if you don't have something, you don't miss it. But conversely, you go, hey, I'm jonesing for some good sports. And so that's, maybe hopefully that's the way it'll go.
Well, the one problem that we have in Bermuda is that the population usually fixes that Jones by looking at professional sports and not what's happening locally. And that's what's happening right now. The only sport that's being paid attention to is the one that's not happening here. And we have to figure out a way to get everybody to turn their eyes inward and look at what's happening in Bermuda. That has to be our focus.
No, I agree totally with you, Ben.
Yeah. Well, just got an update that there's now 4 schools that have been the latest number. Well, not numbers, but 4 schools now have an exposure. Primary schools have exposures. So it looks like we're heading,
primary.
So far 4. Yeah.
So that's not including Whitney Middle.
I'm sorry. 3 primary. Whitney Middle, Northlands, Delwood Middle, and just now Paget Primary. So we're not heading in the right direction. And again, sports will feel the brunt of it because we're gonna be set back even further now because of the issues that are going on. So we'll have to wait and see what comes out of this. It's gotta be frustrating for the young people that really are doing, everybody that's doing what they're supposed to do. And I'm not saying that the people that have got this haven't been doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's just that they've been around some people that have, for whatever reason, been infected, and then they've kind of passed it on. But it's got to be frustrating for people that really want to get back to some sort of normalcy of whatever they do, but they're being denied because of this pandemic.
I tell you, it's difficult, and I know. I was at a meeting one time with Sean when he was feeling that kind of the weight of you're trying to be positive for your sport, and at some point it just feels like the negative obstacles are in your way so often, but you just can't give up, right? You have to keep pushing through it, but it gets tough, right? Because we have to motivate the young people to continue to be part of it. So we can't give in. We have to keep pushing ahead and figuring out ways to make it work. And right now it's about making sure the young people realize that sports can be fun. So we have to look at that opportunity while we are on a real pause for what competition is going to look like.
Definitely. Well, gentlemen, I do want to thank you very much for your time. I know it's been a challenging time for you guys as administrators, trying to keep your athletes, young and old, motivated, inspired. But the carrot, basically, the carrot's probably about yellow now. No, it's not orange.
we might have to replant that one.
Yeah, I just think sort of in closing, Earl, I mean, it's wonderful that we have this outlet with you to sort of express things. It's cathartic to sort of have a chat and have a laugh and tease each other. And I just, Ben's quite right. You need to be positive, and we all need to help each other. And if you see a brother sort of struggling, put your arm around him and lift. Well, try to do it with 3 feet social distancing, but try to give words of encouragement, and this too shall pass, and we're all in it together, and let's not lose sight of the bigger picture, and certainly let's not lose the passion and the love of the sports that we individually support, because that's really what keeps us going. So. Thank you, Earl, for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you guys.
Both. And folks, do enjoy the rest of your night.
I'm going to bed. Cheers, guys.